Today we're solving the creepiest mysteries in Mario Kart World. From finding the UFO's mothership to a mysterious portal behind Boo's Cinema. But the first case that we have here is Wario Shipyard, one of the most mysterious locations. With an unknown castle ruler, a bunch of ships mysteriously crashing here, and a ghost ship at the center of it, I knew I immediately had to go investigate. And when I got there, one of the first things that came to mind was, what was the cause of all this wreckage? It's not like there was just one ship that had crashed here, but a whole bunch of them that wrecked in this specific area. Also, only in this area you can find a bunch of anglerfish roaming around, so did they have something to do with these ships crashing here? I mean, they do damage you when touched, so they're not friendly enemies. Or could it be some of the bigger sea creatures that you can occasionally find in these waters? Perhaps this place is supposed to mirror the Bermuda Triangle of the Mario universe, where ships crash and go missing in this particular area with no particular reason. But then I noticed something more interesting. It's the deliberate and apparent use of blue flames on the main ship here, because these perfectly resemble the flames on ghost ships from the Zelda series. Could this be a hint at ghosts causing all these ships to crash here? Or are these the ghosts of the dead crew? I mean, I wasn't able to see any crew in sight, and with no leads to their whereabouts, maybe they never left. Also, when I went back to the original track on the 3DS, I noticed that the blue flames weren't there on this ship, so Nintendo specifically added them in this version, which makes me think that there is more of a purpose behind them. Then I started to look at the whole castle element of this track. How does this play into the mystery? Did all these ships try and invade this place, and this is now the ruins of some ancient war? If so, this castle would have been of high value. The owner of this castle is never stated, but maybe this was Bowser's old castle before it got destroyed. So he went to the other side of the map to make a new castle elsewhere. Now today, I'm gonna try and solve all of these mysteries, but this first one is gonna take some more time. So while I further research into this, why don't we try to solve a few quick mysteries first? Like this giant skeleton in Dry Bones Burnout. This creature has puzzled a bunch of people online, with many origin theories to this colossal structure, and even finding his gravestone, which has caused more questions than answers. And while I investigate this skeleton, I have a challenge for you, cause someone at Nintendo bet me that you can't subscribe before Mario gets abducted. So to save Mario, hit that sub button below. Back to the skeleton though. At first glance, it seems pretty obvious what this thing is. The track is called Dry Bones Burnout. This is just a giant dry bones, right? Well, I wouldn't be so sure. When I compared its head to one of a dry bones, we can see that this thing's mouth is thinner and more beak-like. It has more puffed out cheeks and giant horns. Of course, there have been many variations of dry bones throughout the Mario series, but none of them have had any of these features, especially not horns. Not to mention the size of this thing, just look at it. We've never seen a dry bones this big in any other Mario game. The giant Koopas from Galaxy 2 weren't even this big. In fact, it doesn't even seem to have a turtle-like body, but more of a serpent or snake-like appearance. So what is this mysterious creature then? Could it be an ancestor of the dry bones species that has now gone extinct? Well, there may be some evidence that points to that. Because when I took a closer look at it, I noticed that these aren't just regular bones from something that had recently died. These are fossils. And we can see that from the various bones that are half still under the ground. So based on the terrain here, it looks like they have slowly been digging out the bones of this creature for quite some time now. Then this must be an ancient monster that the dry bones had evolved from. Or there's dinosaurs in this world, so perhaps it was one of them, as it was around in that era. Well, after thinking on this for a bit, I discovered something else in this area that gave me some more answers, but also gave me a lot more questions too. It's the gravestone for this giant monster. That's what I assume due to the massive grave size and the fact that it noticeably has horns like the giant skeleton. And here we can see the years it lived till, being born in 1688 and dying in 1988, meaning it lived for 300 years. Jeez. Now this does confirm that it was some sort of ancient creature being alive in the 1600s, but it couldn't really be a fossil then if it only died 37 years ago. And since we have nothing else to go by, this case remains unsolved. first. Okay guys, now I think I've got it. I think I've just about solved how all these ships mysteriously crashed in Wario Shipyard. But I just need a bit more time with this one, so while I finish this off, let's look at the mystery of the Rainbow Star Fragment first. It's this star up on a cliff by Crown City. Where did this thing come from? Is this star some sort of crashed spaceship, or does it relate at all to all the stars and UFOs on the map? Let's investigate. Now this was one of the very first mysteries here, as it was shown off even in the game's trailers, which already spawned tons of theories about its origin. But before we get to those, let's talk about why it's so mysterious. Right away, I noticed it can be seen from a lot of spots in Crown City. So it's clear Nintendo wanted to present this to us as it's framed when driving up one of the main streets in this city. There's even a P-switch mission that allows us to go right up to this artifact. So that's what I did, which allowed me to get a much closer look at what this thing is. I noticed it has this rocky, moon-like texture, which is completely different from the rock textures next to it, not to mention a different color too. So is it an asteroid? And if so, where did it come from? Well, I wanted to look online and see what other people thought about it, and here I found a bunch of other interesting ideas. This one user on Reddit stated that it could be the giant star from the N64 Rainbow Road track. So I began to look at previous Rainbow Roads to see if there were any more of these giant stars. Which there were, like there's also one in Double Dash 2 for example. But when I looked at the Rainbow Road in this game, there were no such stars. So what I think is going on here is that this star was floating around the Mario Kart World Rainbow Road track like in previous games, but it drifted too close to Earth, which caused it to be pulled in by the planet's gravity, eventually leading it to crash into this mountain, essentially making it like a meteor due to the texture of this object too. Further proof of this is also the fact that the majority of meteors in the USA are located in the southwestern states, like Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico, which is what this region of the map is based on, where the meteor landed. So Crown City later then installed the home of the Rainbow Fragment billboard to attract more tourists to the city. And considering they literally call it the Rainbow Fragment, I think this is even more proof of this being what is going on here, meaning that this case is solved. Boo's Cinema, the typical creepy area. But there may be more to this supposed movie screen, or what happened to the original owners of the cinema, and what's going on behind this building too. Let's take a look. Now, when I entered the area, the first question that came to me was, is this really a cinema? Like, to get here, I drove on this long, creepy stone road, almost like I was leaving the city and headed to a mansion in the countryside. A Wayne Manor type vibe I got. And when arriving at the cinema, I was greeted with stone pillars with the name of the place, much like haunted mansions would have. And just by looking at the overall shape and structure of this thing, you can clearly tell that this was definitely a mansion at some point. So then the question is, how did this eventually turn into a haunted cinema? What happened to the original owners, and why did they choose to leave? Perhaps the answers lie in this movie screen, which may not even be a screen at all. I mean, if this was actually the movie that was playing, then how could you be watching film reels of the movie in the actual movie? What if this screen essentially acts like a portal to this mysterious Boo world? Maybe the owners of the mansion accidentally created this portal here, which caused too many Boos to flood into their world and overtake the mansion. And there's further proof of this, because just like we can go into the movie world, the characters from the movie can come into our world, like these bats here. But I wanted to be sure, so I then drove around to the back of this mansion to get a different angle of this portal entrance. However, I was quickly met with these giant walls, so I tried to take a different approach and went all around the mountains to get on top of these walls, but Lakitu would not let me go there. Just what is being hid behind here? It's also odd just how square and flat this terrain is behind the cinema. Also, the fact that this giant landmass is attached to the mansion is odd too. Does the movie world take place in a cave that's attached here? Well, that's really all this game allows us to see. The whereabouts of the original mansion owners and the mysterious movie portal makes this case still unsolved. Our next mystery comes from the Dry Ruins section of the map. It's these mysterious markings on the wall that show prehistoric creatures, gods, and potentially hint at an ancient war. So I drove over to investigate, and as soon as I took a closer look at some of these murals, more questions started to arise. As you can see, there are various Mario characters portrayed in ancient times. The most unusual ones being the Toads, as they all have normal human proportions. So what happened to all the Toads in all these years? How did they evolve and shrink down to their current size? They are also seen riding around on ancient Yoshis, meaning they must have brought them over from Dinosaur Land to the Mushroom Kingdom way before Mario met Yoshi over there. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because the rest of what these murals show get even weirder. Because I then came across this mysterious story of what I think was going on back then. I saw the Toads, Lakitus, and Yoshis all working together here, and they looked to be charging at this evil sun who is attacking them with the fire snakes. It was also unclear which side the Batidons were on too. What's odd is that it looks like the sun is protecting this mysterious symbol. And that might be the biggest mystery of these murals and the key to solving them. This one has completely puzzled me, as it seemed to be the most important part of this without telling us anything about it. We can see all the civilians, including the Toads, Lakitus, and Batidons walking towards this symbol. All the races are coming together for some reason. And how does the angry sun play into all of this? In the ancient structures, I noticed that he looked to be an important figure, working with the Batidons here. Maybe he was using this mysterious ancient artifact we see here to control the land, which caused all the races to attack and overthrow the sun, so that the powerful artifact could be used by the people, thus uniting all the races together. That's my best guess, at least. However, it really is still a mystery, as with no other info or leads to go off of, this case remains unsolved. The UFOs. They appear all over the map, but just where do they come from? Do they go back to their mothership? And what is with the mysterious UFO research site? Now, this was one of the first mysteries that people started to post online, and while there's plenty of pictures about them, I wanted to get a closer look myself. So I began to drive along the highways to search for one, which after a while eventually did show up. I waited until it flew away to see where it would go. And it started going alright, as it quickly moved super fast across the water. I followed it to the very edge of the map until I could barely see it, but couldn't get any closer due to Lakitu. And after, when I looked around, it was gone. But I saw another one in the day this time and began to follow that too. However, I literally looked away for a split second and it disappeared in an instant, leaving no trace to where it was headed. Which begs the question, where do all these mysterious UFOs go to? Well, there's another part of the map that may tell us more about this. A certain spot that made me think that the UFOs aren't just random game elements that can occur, but that there's actually something more to the lore that we're missing. Because there's a certain section in the open world known online unofficially as Area 51. And when I went to explore this spot, the first thing I noticed was multiple gates warning about danger. But I kept going, knocking down all these fences until I saw the UFO with 2 cows right underneath it. Now this ship will always be here, unlike all the other random UFO encounters across the map. But this caused me to ask so many more questions. Like, who put these fences up here? Was it the Toads? If so, do the Toads know that this is a common spot for these UFOs to be, so they added all this here to further study them? Or did they place these cows here in order to bait UFOs to come to this location? Since the cows are so out of place in this area of the map, they don't normally appear in this snowy region. Then I noticed Nabbit oddly here. How does he play into all of this? I know he's a game mechanic where you catch him in multiple areas on the map, but he normally only appears in the various race courses, not in some random section of the map. So is Nintendo hinting at some sort of connection between Nabbit and these UFOs? Perhaps Nabbit uses them to get around so fast all over the map. I don't know. However, that's all we have to go off. There's no other information about these UFOs, and trying to follow them back to their spawn doesn't work either, meaning that this case is unsolved. Alright, I think I've got it now. I think I finally pieced together the very first mystery. The reason why all these ships have mysteriously crashed in the same spot, being Wario Shipyard. And to get to the bottom of this, I had to look at another mystery in this game. These various whirlpools across the map. They seem like a pretty strange addition here, as they have no purpose at all. Yeah, sure, there's that one blue coin P-switch mission, but that's barely a challenge. These don't even have a current that pushes you around to make it harder or anything. And all these smaller ones have no purpose whatsoever. Now at first I was thinking maybe there was supposed to be some enemy here in the center, like in certain Zelda games, but it didn't make it into the final release of the game, so Nintendo just left in the whirlpools. But no, when I looked at the locations of these things, it hit me. They all appear right next to Wario Shipyard. In fact, you can't find them anywhere else throughout the entire map. And do you know what's in between these whirlpools and Wario Shipyard? All these spiky, solid rock formations. Yes, what I am saying is that Wario and his fleet were heading towards this castle and unexpectedly went into these whirlpools, causing them to lose control. This caused them to hit the various rock formations, which punctured various holes into the hulls of their ships. Without being able to control the ships, they kept moving forward until they were finally stopped by the stronghold, where all the ships crashed into. And that is why they all remain here, making this case finally solved. And as for what happened to the crew or what this ghost ship is, I don't know, that's still a mystery to me.